Welcome to the ResearchWorks podcast, broadcasting live from the Oceania Academy of Cerebral Palsy and Other Childhood Onset Disabilities Conference 2026 in the beautiful city of Hobart, Australia. Join Dr. Dana Poole and the ResearchWorks team as we bring you an exclusive series of interviews with visionary keynote speakers and leading presenters, captured right here amid the groundbreaking discussions and innovations shaping the future of disability research and care.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to our conference series. We're here at Oceania Academy in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. It's 2026. What a great way to start the year. And as part of our conference series, as you know, I'm speaking to a lot of the speakers here at the conference to get a bit more information about some of the things that we're hearing here. And hopefully there'll be some things that you'll want to implement into your practice. And today I have on the pod, Sophia Gribbon from the Healthy Strides Foundation. Welcome to the podcast again, Sophia.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've had you here before as we've talked about some other critical elements of how we implement evidence into our practice. But this time we're talking about a paper. This is a paper that I've been involved with as well. So it's something that's really dear to our hearts and I think something that a lot of people will be interested in. The title of this paper is called Kindy Moves, the experience of early intensive group-based locomotor training from the parent's perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we have presented before when it comes to the quantitative data. We've published the protocol before, but this data, the qualitative, is something that this is the first time that we're actually showing it within a conference and discussing it. So there's a lot to talk about with this one, but maybe to start off with, for people who don't know what the Kindy Moves program is and why it came about, Sophia, how about you give us a bit of a rundown about what Kindy Moves is all about?
Yeah, well, basically, we designed Kindy Moves because we know that young children under 5 years, especially those classified with GMFCS levels 3 to 5, they have a significantly reduced opportunities to engage in age-appropriate group-based play compared to their neurotypical peers.
Yeah.
And they have high appointment loads. Usually these kids have high, very complex medical needs. And so we wanted to address that need. And that's where Kindy Moves was born.
I love that. And we can all relate to that. We hear stories so much of parents having to go to so many appointments. They're finding that those first few years, really, there's so many special appointments, getting to know, I guess, the therapy world and engaging in different kinds of therapies. And then the fact is a lot of children, they miss out on interacting and socialising with kids their own age. And I think that's a really important part of it. So Kindy Moves was developed as a result of it. Tell us more about what Kindy Moves actually is.
So it's an early intensive group-based locomotor training program for children in those early years, so 2 to 5 years. And it's really designed as sort of a preparation for school, I guess, kind of program. And so it's all about family-centered practice, all about the F words of childhood disability. So we really focus on, fitness and fun and friends and family, all those really great F words. And so it's basically a 2-hour program that kids come to for 3 times a week. And the study was based on a 4-week program. And yeah, it's a group-based program. It's very individualized based on their own goals. And usually there is a walking-based goal, there's a play-based goal. And it's really dependent on what those individual goals look like for each child.
Yeah, and I think the individualization is really important because whilst it's group-based, you want to be with other children your own age, but you also want to be so individualized because we know this group of children is really heterogeneous. They all present differently and also have their own complexities as well. So just on a side note, do you have a favourite F word?
Oh,
I always love asking these. It gives us a state of mind of where we're at when we're providing our therapies. Have one in mind?
Gosh, I have listened to many people answer this question and I've never really settled on one myself, actually. I think fun, probably.
Yeah.
Because, I think everything most things can be fun if you try hard enough. And I think fun just makes everything better. So
I think so too. I think I have evolved a lot where fun has become my favourite F word too, because without it, you don't have engagement.
Yeah.
There's no motivation to do it. And then it's really tapping into that intrinsic desire to do something. And without that intrinsic desire, there can be no functioning. Like, how does that actually work? And yeah, I love that you said that.
Especially for our kids.
Yeah.
Especially for this population.
Yeah, that's right. I think you end up being playmasters. You honestly really have to, don't you? And thinking about how, because that is the occupation of children. And so, of course, the sessions need to look fun. Okay, so there are 4 weeks in duration, 3 times a week. Each session was 2 hours. It was done within a community-based setting. So like we said, the outcomes, the quantitative outcomes, like the walk test, goal achievement, reported previously. It's in BMJ Open, so really easy to access. But this is a slightly different sample. We had 40 participants in Kindy Moves in total over the 2019 and 2020. But this looks a bit different from a qualitative perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this was more focused on parents' experiences of the locomotor training program and whether it was an acceptable program, whether they thought it was worthwhile, doable, I guess, achievable first of all, and whether they felt it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
And so the way we did that is we had semi-structured interviews that in the end we did with 10 parents of 10 children. And they were all focused on the F words. And this was done by a blinded interviewer.
Yes.
And then from that, we gathered the data and came up with 5 main themes that seemed to be a common thread between all the parents.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's worthwhile mentioning here the blinded interview for this is, drumroll, Dr. Ashley Thornton. So you can see the qualitative component comes in here. And I think what's also worth mentioning is from a representation perspective, it was really nicely spread in terms of parents of children across GMF's level 3, 4 and 5.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we had a nice balance there.
Love it. Okay, so through that process, and there's obviously a whole rigor and trustworthiness process to make sure the data is accurate. What were your themes? Let's go through each of them one by one. So theme 1.
Okay, theme 1 was expectations versus reality.
I love that. Okay, so what were some of the expectations that came up from families?
I think a lot of it was influenced by what they see on social media. So, you get a lot of sort of short snippets of very enticing looking videos that can be convincing. And so parents come with really high expectations of what they're going to be able to achieve in a short period of time, I think.
Yeah.
But they were also influenced to give it a go despite some fears that they might have about intensive therapy.
Isn't that funny? There's always a positive and a negative to it, and it's so true because on social media, it's designed that way, right? You get a glimpse of what happens before and after, but you don't tend to see the work that's involved during it. But you also have a lot of things in your algorithm that might be lots of non-evidence-based interventions too. So there'll be things that you're not sure about, what you're actually seeing, and it's quite difficult to process everything that you're seeing.
Yeah, Instagram is not reality, that's for sure.
Yes, and you had some really lovely quotes of that. Do you mind sharing some of those quotes that parents had from an expectations perspective?
Sure. There was one parent, they said, I thought that she might have started walking at the end of this program, but seeing her a week after, I understand it's going to be a little harder for her and it's going to take more time and practice for her. It's not going to be as easy as I thought it would be.
Yeah. And it is hard work, isn't it? There's a lot involved with that. There's practice within this setting, practice at home. There's just more involved. Yeah. And I think that's important from a messaging perspective. Okay. So expectations. Now let's look at reality.
Okay. I think parents are, on the whole, very surprised with how well their kids
that's so great
manage to handle the intensity of the programs and that they have this resilience that they never really appreciated. So like one parent says, I think it's made us realize that she's capable of so much more than what we probably thought she was in terms of endurance and how strong she is. And if you've got the motivations right for her, she'll just keep going.
Wow. And I love that. I think it's so great for parents to see more from their child, and they're always going to be their biggest fan, but to be surprised and excited about that too is so wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's theme 1. So theme 2, dosage and intensity.
Yeah, I think this one, it was about parents being a little bit apprehensive and nervous about the dosage and the intensity. I think a lot of people have heard, I guess, horror stories about intensives and how their children will just cry the whole time. And, that can be, yeah, fair enough. That's a scary thing to think
Why
about.
would you embark on that, right? If that's
yes.
going to be the case, because crying is certainly not okay in therapy.
Exactly. And that their child just won't be able to cope with it. Like one parent says, I was actually very hesitant or very nervous about an intensive program. I was very nervous about the crying.
Wow.
I was very nervous about how I would actually react to it. So there was a lot of
apprehension. Oh, wow. But the fact that they still wanted to give it a go speaks volumes in terms of what a parent is willing to do to explore things for their children, hey?
Yeah.
And so that was their apprehension and fear. What was the other side of it?
Well, they realised that the child could cope with the intensity better than they expected. And I think that the difference there was how individualised the program was.
Sure.
And it wasn't just all about you got to do more and you got to do 1 more and 10 more. And it wasn't just, yes, that's what we're hoping for, to get lots of repetitions, but it was all embedded in fun. And I think that's why it's my favourite word, because without fun, we would be out of a job basically. These kids are not going to do the repetitions and be able to cope with that intensity if they're not motivated by fun.
Absolutely. And what came out from that? Obviously, this was a 4-week intervention, which, when we first tried to design this, it was really trying to make something as feasible as possible. What's the minimum amount that could be doable? And, with those fears about intensity, what sort of came out from that in the end?
Yeah, I think even though parents were apprehensive about the intensity, I think after 4 weeks, they realised, actually, this is so doable. And actually, I think we've realised now how much work is required to achieve a goal. And so we think they're doing fine. Another 2 or 4 weeks extra would have probably led to more skill progression and they would have handled it fine.
Yeah. And isn't it so important to have this parental input, consumer input, because as clinicians and researchers, you will think one way and you present it, I suppose, but to actually collaborate and design a study and then hopefully a program is so powerful because it's meeting the needs of the end users, essentially.
Yeah.
That was great feedback.
Yeah, and I think it also becomes a nice part of their routine.
Sure.
Like it's an activity they can come to 3 times a week, and it is social and it is fun and engaging. So it's not like a chore or something that they are trying to endure. It's actually something people look forward to and the kids look forward to it.
That's beautiful. And a wonderful segue to your next theme, social connection. Talk us through this one, Sophia.
Yeah, this was some really nice feedback that we got. I think what the parents got out of it is that interaction between their children and other children that they wouldn't have really experienced before.
Yeah.
Their children there's stories of their kids never having really initiated any kind of communication with another child, never really waved at anybody. Wow. And now they come in and they're waving at each other.
Wow.
They are, acknowledging each other. And I think as well for the parents, it's so important to acknowledge that social interaction for them as well, that they really found it's so valuable to connect with other parents going through a similar thing. Because
isolating, right? Mm-hmm. You're going through something at an age where you might have other friends that have children too, but they've got a different trajectory, so you don't really feel like you fit there either. Yeah. So it's their own social connection. That's really powerful. Yeah, other people who get it or can somehow relate to the experiences that you're going through is such an invaluable thing. Yeah. There's lots of quotes of parents saying, we made friends and now we're going to continue meeting up, so and good. It's really nice to hear that. That's so good. Okay, that's a lovely theme. Theme 4 now, context and environment. Tell us a little bit more about this. Yeah, I think this is a really key thing to enable this whole program to be a success, is the fact that, parents said it was all about the team, but also their environment. So the team were always really gentle, encouraging, as well as skilled, and the environment was always play-based. It was always fun. Right. It was always engaging. Yeah. And I think that is the real, some of the really key ingredients, and it's not just an extra or, nice to have. Like this is something that's actually really important, and without that, it wouldn't be a success. Yeah, it's almost like the context is the medium of which everything needs to occur in. Yeah. Yeah, and I love how you said that. It's not just a nice to have, it's something that's actually quite critical for this particular age group and for this to run successfully. Yeah, like one of the parents said, the interaction between the therapist and children, it never felt like therapy. Ah, and that's valuable. So important, because therapy can feel I don't know, it can feel so detached if you don't quite have it right? It's this foreign thing that you go to and engage with, but the reality is you want those connections. It's the people connections and it's the support that fosters that, and I think that's really beautiful and so important for us as therapists to reflect on this in terms of the environment that we are creating. It is our intervention. It's part of what we do.
Yeah.
Final theme, outcomes beyond the motor. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is a really nice theme because I think, yes, this is an intervention that focuses on locomotor training, it focuses on upper limb skills, but I think it was these extra benefits that were that cherry on top, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, we expected to see gross motor improvements.
Yes, of course.
But it was all these other things that parents noticed that were incredible. So the main ones around cognition, communication and motivation.
Yeah.
So people noticed things that their children were doing that they weren't doing before, like their awareness of other children,
Beautiful.
Initiating those interactions, or the communication just seemed to take off. They'd start to sign more, or they would put words together. So yeah, that was some really key things that people noticed. And again, their motivation as well that we've mentioned before. That their motivation and endurance just kept on getting better.
That's fantastic because motivation is the key, right? It's the key to extending yourself, to wanting to do something. It's the part of the self-initiation, the curiosity and the problem solving, which is why motor and cognition are so interrelated, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more you can move and explore, the more likely you're going to look at that thing over there and figure out what that's going to be, but also be at the level of your peers. It's such an important piece of that. So when you combine all of this together, what's the main message that you really want clinicians to take home from this piece of work?
I think that we can know now that this kind of intervention is an acceptable intervention, that parents, yes, it is an intensive therapy and it requires commitment from the families, but we've learned that people are willing to commit to it because they see the benefits, not only in terms of the motor progressions, but communication, cognition, interactions, the social connection.
Sure.
So parents are, they see it's doable. They actually want more of it.
Yes.
They want longer interventions for more skill acquisition.
That's fantastic. There's two things there that I reflect on. Number one is from an intensive standpoint, it's not that much compared to a lot of these intensive models which are every day for hours on end.
Yeah.
And you can still achieve these outcomes that we've reported before, but you can also see these outcomes that have been reported here from a community perspective. So that's really vital. That's the first piece of it. And the second piece of it is that when it comes to the feasibility of the outcomes and how this actually fits in with life, I think you don't want to be doing too much either.
No.
Like you want enough, but you also want to be really responsible with your resources.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part of it.
That's right. And you've got to remember why we're doing this. And I think that if you always think about the why, then I don't think you would ever do too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's more than, something we've been talking about a lot. Some of the talks that we're doing within the conference, the breakfast sessions, is it's more than just dosage. The dosage is the number, but it's the quality of the engagement within the sessions that is actually really vital. And I feel like this work really does represent that really well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, if we want to measure the success of interventions, then we need to measure it by what parents feel it is. So, I think if it's parents feel it's feasible, then we need to, and it's important to them and it's making a difference to their lives, then that's what we should be valuing interventions on.
That's really great. Well, thank you very much. This is a wonderful paper and something that I think a lot of us can reflect on and implement into your practice quite easily and quite quickly, actually. So thank you for joining, Sophia.
Been fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for listening. We hope you found that as useful as we have as a team as we've been navigating through the process of delivering this program, which we're still delivering today. So 6 years later, it's still evolved and with all these main things that are in place in practice now. So if you've got more information, head to our website, researchworks.academy, of course, but we'll talk to you all again very soon. Bye.